The Spanish Grand Prix was surely a treat for fans everywhere. There were 8 DNFs, multiple virtual safety cars, and an Aston Martin disaster class that really showed how bad their car is. There was also a championship swing, and the GOAT is officially back. Each team had some very high highs and some very low lows. So here are the 5 biggest winners and 5 biggest losers of the Spanish Grand Prix. Let's start with the losers. 5. Valtteri Bottas. From fighting for wins at Mercedes to completely falling apart at Sauber and now Cadillac, Valtteri has had a rough time post Mercedes. His DNF at Barcelona marks his third of the season, and again, it's another overheating issue for the Cadillac. The Finn is one of 4 drivers not to score a point so far this season, but is ahead of teammate Sergio Perez in the standings. The car he is in is nowhere near competitive, and with rumors swirling of a driver change for 2027, Valtteri might want to pick up the pace, otherwise he won't be in F1 for much longer. Also, we need another bum calendar. 4. Aston Martin. If you told me in early 2023 that Aston Martin would only be ahead of a brand new team in the 2026 standings through 7 races, I would have told you you are nuts. But then again, here we are. Coming off of a high in Monaco where they scored their first point of the season, they had an absolute disaster class in Barcelona. After qualifying 21st and 22nd by more than a second to Cadillac, you would think that their race weekend could only go up. But you are mistaken. Stroll retired on lap 6 after a gearbox issue, and Alonso retired on lap 40 with a battery issue. The Aston Martin not only has the worst engine on the grid, but they also have the worst car on the grid. In 7 races, they have 8 total DNFs between the 2 drivers, and it's looking like it's not going to get any better for the worst team on the grid. With Alonso losing confidence in the team and his contract running out at the end of this year, Aston Martin could be in some major trouble for the next couple of years if Fernando doesn't stick around. 3. Nico Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg has had a rough season. He is also one of 4 drivers alongside Valtteri, Stroll, and Perez with no points scored this season, and it looks hopeless for the man who scored his maiden podium at Silverstone last season. Most races he has looked dead in the water, and at Barcelona, when he was fighting for the points for once, gravel kicked up from Liam Lawson's car in front of him, knocked out the electrics, and ended his race. This could have been huge for the German driver because it would have not only tied him with Alonso with 1 point, but it would have also given Audi a 2-point buffer against Aston Martin in 9th and 10th. Hulkenberg has historically been able to drive bad cars into the points, but it looks like Audi has completely broken him, and it's sad to see. 2. Kimi Antonelli. Kimi has been elite so far this season. In the first 6 races of the season, the 19-year-old podiumed in Australia and won the other 5 consecutively. He has been amazing, and before Barcelona, the reliability of his Mercedes stood well above his teammate George Russell's. But in Barcelona, that all changed. After claiming second from George Russell on lap 61, Kimi's car would give out just a lap later, handing him his first DNF of the season. This was the worst case scenario for Kimi, as Lewis Hamilton's win and George Russell's second place put the 2 Brits 41 and 50 points away from Kimi in first. The Italian will be fine in the long run though, as he had pace to compete for a podium and maybe even had pace to compete for the lead with Hamilton if things went differently. But one bad race doesn't define Kimi, and he will surely be back for Austria in 2 weeks. 1. Charles Leclerc. Charles might be the unluckiest driver in all of motorsports. After being in position to podium last week at Monaco, his brakes failed and his race ended with him hitting the wall. This week, Charles lost his power steering with just over 2 laps to go, and just like that, his race was ended. Granted, this week Charles was only in P7 before the retirement, but nonetheless, the McLaren of Lando Norris is only 2 points behind him in the standings now. Before the next race, someone needs to hire an Etsy witch or something to turn his luck around. Thankfully, Charles has 2 weeks to the next race and can take some time to relax and get his head back in the game. Now let's go to the top 5 winners of the Spanish Grand Prix. 5. Racing Bulls. Racing Bulls has done really well the past couple of weeks. P7 for Liam Lawson at the Canadian GP, double points at the Monaco GP, and another double points at the Spanish Grand Prix. During the past 3 races, those points finishes have given them 23 points and moved them from P7 to P6 in the constructors' standings. For being a sister team, they really have proven themselves this season and look pretty good with the young drivers of Lawson and Arvid Lindblad. I mean, Lawson by himself would be 6 in the constructors, and then add Lindblad, who currently sits 13th with 13 points, and that's a recipe for success. 4. Alpine. Alpine has made some really good improvements for the new regulations. After being dead last in the Constructors' Championship last season with 22 points, Alpine has come to the 2026 season guns blazing. Through 7 races, Alpine has not just surpassed their total from last season, but they have more than doubled it with 57 points this season alone. They went from clown show in 2025 to best of the rest and P5 in 2026. Alpine has improved so much in the past year. Much of that has to do with Pierre Gasly, but it also has to do with the development of their second driver, Franco Colapinto. Franco tied his career best finish in Miami with a P7, and a race later he broke it with a P6 in Canada. Franco has been showing amazing improvement over the course of the season, and Alpine secured a double points finish in Barcelona with P7 for Gasly and P10 for Franco. Currently, Alpine sit just 32 points behind Red Bull in the standings and have even outperformed the Milton Keynes team in China and Japan earlier this year. Alpine look damn good so far, and they could be in for their best finish since 2022. 3. Lando Norris. Lando has had a rough season so far, with 3 DNFs or DNSs in 7 races, including back-to-back DNFs in Canada and Monaco. Lando really needed to pick me up in Barcelona, and he got it. The British driver was close to the podium all race, but never fully got to challenge the Mercedes and Ferrari ahead, and in the closing laps, he needed a miracle to make it onto the podium. But unlike Charles, someone indeed paid for an Etsy witch for him, and Kimi had a mechanical issue, giving Lando a place on the podium. That put Lando back into P5 in the championship after Piastri overtook him in Monaco last week. That podium also ties him with Charles and Oscar with 2 apiece, and it's looking a lot better for little Lando. 2. George Russell. Princess George looks so good in Australia and has looked so terrible since, but he lucked out in Barcelona. George qualified on the pole for the race and ahead of teammate Kimi Antonelli in 3rd, and during the course of the race he held his own against the young Italian. But late in the race, Kimi overtook him for P2 and he looked to surrender more points to his teammate. But things, unlike in Canada, would go George's way. Kimi would DNF after a mechanical issue and George would be promoted to P2 in the race. That DNF would also help George close the gap to Kimi by 18 points, but Lewis Hamilton is still ahead of him in the standings. For a car that looked unstoppable the first 6 races of the season, it has proven to be unreliable the past 2, with George also DNFing at Canada 2 weekends ago. If I were George and Kimi, I would watch my back because Lewis Hamilton is coming and he has championship experience. 1. Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is officially back because what a race weekend from him and what a 3-race stretch from the Brit. Hamilton took a 3-stop strategy which gave him a massive advantage over the Mercedes duo from the jump. He maintained 2nd place for the first stint, took the lead in the 2nd stint, and never looked back in the 3rd stint, finishing almost 20 seconds ahead of George in 2nd. Last week I said that he took a new year, new me to a whole new level, and I stand by that. But we have to note, Kim K said she could bring anything back, and she might have just brought back the GOAT. Lewis looks rejuvenated this season, and has proven he still has what it takes to win a title. P3 in China, P2 in Canada, P2 in Monaco, and now P1 in Spain, and he looks like his 2019 self all over again, and he's driving like it too. His emotions towards racing have changed, his confidence has changed, and his driving has gotten better and better each week. And he's in a worse car than the Mercedes. If Ferrari can get this guy a better engine and keep up with the positive upgrades, it might just be Lewis Hamilton's year. And that's it. That's the 5 biggest winners and 5 biggest losers of the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix. It was a great weekend overall, although there were a lot of DNFs for the 2nd week in a row, and there's a 1-week break until Austria on the 28th. But until next time, I'll see you later.